Okay guys, we are back and we are going to be talking about how to do a cutting for the Aeroponic cloner. Now the first thing we're going to have to do, since I'm doing multiple species, we're going to talk about our gear setup here. I am doing an apple and a grape today, and because there's a difference between the species, I don't want to accidentally cross-contaminate any diseases. Now, neither have a disease right now, but it's better to have some sanitation procedures just to be sure. And my essential equipment, I have 2 pair of Fiskars, a little medium duty, a little light duty. And what I do with these when I'm going from cutting up the apple to cutting up the grape, in between I will spray on these 2 beauties. Now this one is you can't see, it's not properly labeled, a combination of neem oil and potassium bicarbonate. This acts as an antifungal. That goes on first. I spray the blades down, I wipe them off, and then I spray with this hydrogen peroxide. And peroxide kills pretty much everything. So that way I'm not transmitting any parasitic fungus or viral agents between the species. The other piece of equipment I have is my trusty Gerber razor blade. Now I do that to score the end of the cutting below the first node so that it can be more surface area exposure to the cadmium layer for the rooting hormone. The more rooting hormone that I can get in there, the more I can set roots. Now that's going to be much more apparent in the grape because they can set roots just about anywhere. It will be a little less effective in the apple, but I'll show you what I'm talking about. So first we're going to start out with, I have a 1020 tray here with a little bit of water in it because you don't want the ends to dry out. Now these are fresh cuttings off of a transparent yellow apple tree. Now some folks will be adamant that you have to have the terminal bud, which is the very end bud where the auxins tend to be produced. I haven't noticed a big difference. I've done both. Both react pretty much the same. I have a couple of blueberries sitting over there that have no terminal buds on them whatsoever, and their secondary bud is growing. Now if you can get up near the end and see this is a softwood cutting because it is still flexible. It's not fully lignified, but it's new growth. It is last year growth because it has a terminal bud. So I just kind of use that as a landmark. Now, one of the key things you want to make sure you have is make sure that beneath the collar you only have about 2 inches of room. So your collars are going to go right about here, and you don't have too much above top. So about 6 inches is tend to be what I end up with on this cutting. So in this one, because the internode spacing is so narrow, we have a lot of buds to work with. More buds is better. We're going to cut right between this internode. I'm going to put that piece back, trim up any of the extra fibers. And see, that is the little bit we have. Take my razor blade here, and you see you have 2 nodes here, 2 nodes here, and here. And between them, these are going to be the ones that are in the aeroponic solution. I'm going to score the blade down, just do some vertical scoring, just a little bit, not a ton. And then I use Dip and Grow. Now this is a liquid butyric acid concentrate solution, and it ends up in this cup. Now this stuff is pretty nasty. Don't get it in your skin, don't touch your eyes, but I have water and I have a hydroxide solution over here just in case I do get it. I should be wearing glasses. Do as I say, not as I do. You know how that works. So we dip, and I'm just going to let that sit in there for a little bit. Meanwhile, I'm going to prep the other cutting. Now I'm only doing 10 cuttings of each species, and these are the last 2 that I'm doing. So this one has been sitting in a bucket for about a day, so I'm going to assume that this bottom half of this is no good. So cut that off, and that still leaves me with a good chunk to work with, but I need it just a little bit shorter, so I'm going to take it right there, right in the central point between the central point of the internodes, which is the middle between 2 nodes. And 2 nodes are the buds, in case we have not covered terminology yet. So, transparent apple number 2, or technically number 10. Score here. Now be careful, obviously, you don't need to press hard, so don't cut yourself. I'm going to take those extra fibers off the end here, just so they don't get confused for roots in the future. And that is up. Because you can always tell, you always want them to go up. You can always tell because the buds will always angle in an upward direction. And that goes in the solution as well. Now the first one has soaked long enough. We're going to take our collar and net cup, former net cup, open our collar up. Make sure that dips right there. That is ready. Make sure you don't have any more drops. And then right about here is where our collar is going to seat. So, and then this goes on. This will sit in the cell like this. This which will hang below. This is where the roots are going to form. The mist will be on this for a minute every 5 minutes. And then this is the part that's going to, bud out. And some of them are flowering actually. So it's cool. to see them flower because the plant thinks it has enough energy and enough nutrients incoming to be able to produce fruit, but it really doesn't. So we're going to pinch those flowers off. I'm going to show them to you, but then we're going to pinch them off just to save it some energy. All right, we're going to do our second apple cutting here. Okay. Different color collar just to change it up. Slide it in like that, right on the end, and our apples are done. Next up, and I just set them in these little Dixie cups. These little same Dixie cups I had mixed the chemical with. They are quite useful, and you can use them over and over and over again, so it's not wasteful at all. Now, these here are two of the big chunks I have of Concord grape, seeded grape. I always like the seeded ones better because I believe it might just be, I have no evidence, but I believe they concentrate sugar a little bit better than the seedless grapes. Now I'm going to trim up some of these anchor points. Now this is, again, last year's growth, new growth. Now that bottom is pretty good. I'm going to cut that node off just because it is a couple days old. See right here. Now, see, very tight node spacing right there, which is good for root development, which means we're going to top that down just a little bit right here. So that's going to be top, bottom, same procedure. We're going to score it. So the scoring right there. About 4 good vertical lines is all you're going to need. And right into the hormone solution. Just let that soak in while we do the other one. Okay, same deal. Get the anchor vines off. Those are a little tougher. Okay. And this is the tedious part of the work, is just preparation of the plant material. Now, that node's a little close, but it is somewhat waterlogged because these have been sitting in a bucket of water. As soon as I cut them, I put them in a bucket of water, but they've sat for a day. So I'm going to just preemptively take that section off, assume it's damaged and dead, because it will die like that from the bottom up sometimes. Until it runs out of nutrients, then it dies from the top down. Trim that up. We're going to take that top point off because we want the growth node to be pretty high. So that is just ready. Same thing here, we're not going to start up too high. And I don't generally cut right through the node. You can see the node joint right there really clear on this particular specimen. I don't tend to cut right into it, but right around it is pretty good. A lot of that cellular structure there can very quickly absorb the nutrients or the hormone solution and start producing its own roots. It will always produce roots from the node first. All right, those two are ready. One more black collar. That's about right. That one's going to be hanging down a lot. There. Now in these root, one of the best methods for rooting, and why we do this is because, well, to be perfectly honest, buying a whole bunch of plants is stupid. Buy 1 or 2 really, really good ones, get them strong. Now this is a patience. You're trading money for time. Might take a year or 2 for getting, in this case, these grapes. These were 2-year-old grapes. I believe they were 1 year when I got them, so they've been in the ground here for 2 seasons. And then I take the new growth off them, and I have 10 cuttings, if even half of them set, which more than half typically do. About 80% success rate on these on average, which is pretty darn good. I go from 2 grapes to 9, 10, potentially more if all of them set. And plants, well-established plants, are not cheap. So this is a great method to save money, especially when it comes to some of these little guys, the transparent yellows. These are very hard to locate nowadays. I think this is this specimen is 45, 50 years old. It was a Stark Brothers tree, and it's getting aged out. It's having some exposed heartwood, so I'm cloning these for the express purpose of a replacement tree. It's strong genetics. It yields a massive amount even at this late age. Typically, a lot of the good productive life, at least if you're doing it commercially for trees, is about 25, 30 years. And then you have to replace them. This tree's been going strong for you a long time. It has survived a couple of disease incidences. It has even bounced back from, I suspect, a small touch of fire blight. but a lot of the immunological stuff within plants can be amplified and triggered with proper soil nutrition to the plant. Much like us, you don't eat right, your immune system's going to crash, and you're going to start seeing signs of it in diseases. Okay, so these 4 are ready. We're going to go put them in, and I'm going to show you the other setup, and we're going to get it ready to go. Here we got the last of the plants going in here. We just had this cycle timer just kick in, so we're going to plug in right here. And there, so both of these systems right here are set up that one cycle timer. Alright, looks like we're all set up. Looking good here. Okay, now you can see some of these are, we had one guy here, yeah, he doesn't look like he's gonna make it. This one right here is not so hot. But we have several here. If I can expose the roots on this gently. Now that guy is flowering. That's somewhat interesting. 2 flower buds there. Let's see, and there, ladies and gentlemen, is the roots. Because I tell you what, all the how-to videos on YouTube, I'm not a big fan of those that tell you how to do stuff and never show you the results. Well, these are very preliminary, early results, but they are results nonetheless. This is proof of concept. It can be done. These plants have been in here for about a month now. And they're alive. They are not quite thriving, but as Bob, well, they're doing all right. They're actually happy enough to be setting up flowers. So as Bob Ross would say, we have here a bunch of happy little trees. All right, and that does it. All right, folks, I figured now that we're all set with this project and I'm cleaning up, I just want to say thank you for stopping on by and visiting us here at Red Castle Supply. And we're going to keep producing content. Soon enough, I'm going to have a subscribe star up, so if you guys want more content, you can go there and you can ask questions and I'll be able to offer some consulting. But in the meantime, stay tuned for more projects and grow stronger. Hot, really hot. Oh. Have a good one, guys.